Let's see. It's wonderful to have everybody here. Welcome to Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. It is April 21st, 2020. We are all in lockdown, or you should be. If you're not, you shouldn't end up getting medical care if you get sick. I am Wes Hagen. I am the winemaker for J.Wilkes Wines, brand ambassador, and I do some consulting for the other brands, Ballard Lane, Smashberry, as well as a Barrel Burner. So today we're going to be talking about a number of things. I was originally, hey Don, good to see you. I was originally thinking about doing the 2016 wines, which are library wines, and we are still setting up. And I don't know, because our basically our office and our folks are doing such a wonderful job getting out wine. Their priority right now is to catch up with all the orders to make sure all of you who have ordered wines get your wines, and you get them in basically a timely manner. And as a result, we are not yet launching the library deal where we're going to be offering a 6-pack of 16 Pinot Blanc and a 6-pack of 16 Zinfandel. We're also looking at 16 Cab. We might actually do a 12-pack 4, 4, and 4. Probably be about the same price, which is going to be, I think, $150 for all you fine folk, and then $125 or less. You would get your wine club discount, which brings up, and Martin, happy Tuesday to you, my friend. Which reminds me to remind you guys. So this Friday, and I'm going to be saying this a couple times tonight, I realized after I got off, after the longest show I've ever done yesterday, which I just went on and on for about an hour and a half. You think in an hour and a half, I would have told you that the wines are for sale, that there's a promo code, that you can buy 9 different wines for $7.50 and get $10 flat rate case shipping. So I will actually I was slightly disappointed. I did wake up last night. Did I tell these people they should buy some wine? We have actually sold direct to consumer just in the last month over $100,000 worth of wine, which, basically pays for me. So thank you. I appreciate the job and I appreciate the support. But you have the opportunity, Smashberry Rosé, beautiful Grenache Rosé, 2019, $7.50 a bottle. It's like less than $100 a case. You could probably still get it at $100 per case delivered. Smashberry Red, we've got the Sauvignon Blanc from Ballard Lane. We've got Chardonnay, Ballard Lane, Pinot Noir Zin, and Cabernet Ballard Lane. Then we have the Barrel Burner Chardonnay and Cabernet, both 92-point score wines, $7.50 a bottle. Then the J.Wilkes stuff goes up a little bit. We can't afford to sell J.Wilkes at $7.50 because of the vineyard sources and the cost of production. Again, I'm expensive, I guess. So the J.Wilkes wines are, if you buy a 6-pack, you get 20% off. If you buy a case, you get 25% off. But then if you join the wine club, and you don't even have to buy any wine to join the wine club, you can just go join the wine club and wait to get a June shipment, you're going to get something special. And that is, you're going to get the opportunity to basically hang out with me in a Zoom tasting. We're going to do Friday. Once a month, we're going to get together just with the wine club, and you're going to need a password to get in. So you either have to be in the wine club or have a friend to get you into the wine club. We would love for you guys to join. Go over there to jwilkes.com. And unfortunately, wine club used to be like Fight Club. We didn't talk about it. Now it is so amazingly important to our business and to our ongoing presentation of these shows that I've been told by my boss to start funneling people from the show into the wine club where possible. We've sold people a bunch of wine. Now we would love you in the J.Wilkes Wine Club. So go to jwilkes.com, click on the wine club tab, and you can join the wine club, and you'd be my hero. That would be amazing. Yes, Michelle Shin. I have tried to do as much research as I can. We will be talking about this wine tonight. There is a label. It's just very difficult to see. I won't make you try to read it, but it is a dessert wine from Maryland. The best research I could do on what is it, Black Ankle? Yeah, Black Ankle Vineyards. I know the story about how it got its name, and I know what they're growing. So hopefully we'll be able to talk to that. But Michelle, I'm going to hope that you might know some more about that beautiful wine you sent me, and thank you. Today, and I'm not doing this just to make sure, I received no fewer than 11 different types of alcohol through UPS and FedEx. And I didn't really pay for much of it. So I have to thank some friends from the Schramm Vineyards in Minnesota for sending me a beautiful bottle of Marquette. I don't know, it's a beautiful bottle. I haven't tasted it. I doubt anyone's going to be on from SRAM, but I will give an honest assessment of, I think, my first macerated red wine from Minnesota. I've had red wine from a lot of places. I don't know if I've ever had a red wine from Minnesota, from the Marquette varietal, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I know about Marquette. Eric Osley, the Oz is in the house. The Wizard of Oz. Zinman's in the house. Mark Reek's in the house. It's good to see you, brother. So I have one of my favorite beers, and it's a brand new package. It is Surly. I got my Minnesota beers today from my pre-Corona Minnesota tour. And on February 10th in the Grand View Lodge in Upper Minnesota, almost up by Fargo. Yes, I was paying attention and looking out for wood chippers. I actually bought, because of in early February, we're starting to bubble up and hearing this stuff about potentially a virus coming up. I did fly to Minnesota and flew back. And as a result, when I was at the Grandview Lodge up in northern Minnesota, I actually Frazee, Minnesota. I think that's where it is. I actually bought a face mask. So I actually have a face mask, and I bought it when no one was even buying face masks. It just so happened to have it in the gift store at the Grandview Lodge. So thank you, Grandview Lodge. I do have a face mask as a result of my trip to Minnesota. And I do have the Axeman. Now, some of you will recognize this is probably one of the top dozen or top 20. God, there's so many beers in the world. One of the top 20 double IPAs in the country. So this would be along the lines of a Bell's Two Hearted Ale or a Russian River Brewing Company, Pliny the Elder. There's so many amazing double IPAs, but certainly this is one of the best of them. So originally it was called Todd the Axeman. Nita, John, stoked you're here. Thank you guys. And looks like Tommy just came in. And Smashberry Rosé. Yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it, my man. That is that's a great $15 rosé. The fact that it's $7.50 kind of blows my mind. Well, if Phil is working at Black Ankle Vineyards, we can just tell a little bit about that wine when we get to it. We're going to taste it second. So I'm going to do the Marquette first, and I'm going to organize this just a touch. Cool. And then, but first things first, it is Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. I got 4 minutes before we start doing wine. So I got to cleanse my palate and have my first Todd the Axeman. Todd, the brewer at Surly in Minnesota, left Surly, and their flagship beer is Todd the Axeman. They have their Surly, I can't remember what it's called, but they have a standard IPA. But this one is really recognized as one of their best. Hoppy, delicious. It's saying it is loud, hoppy, and dank. One day late, I guess, at 421. It's 7.5% alcohol, and it's brewed in Minneapolis and Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. And boy, I'm looking forward to this first sip. Oh, super yummy. Now, it's not for the meek of heart. The beer. The beer definitely has a lot of verve. It's got a lot of gumption. It's a little bit richer than a lot of IPAs and double IPAs that I've had. Quite bitter. I would put the IBUs somewhere between 80 and 95. My palate is pretty good on IBUs. That's international bitterness units. What does it do? An international bitterness unit is basically the measure of how much hop oils are a part of the beer, and that gives it a bitter character. So the higher the IBUs, and 100 is as high as the scale goes. So 0 IBUs would be almost like 5 IBUs, 10 IBUs would be like a lager that has absolutely no dry hopping done whatsoever. A couple beers that I know that are 100 IBUs. This is close. I know that Pliny the Elder is 100, Pliny the Younger is 100, Blind Pig is 100, Hoppy Pills, which is another beer I think that Russian River does, is damn close to 100 IBUs. So just a little bit of something. We got 2 minutes. So Day Drinking, remember, a couple things going on today that I'd like to hear from you. So I'm Each day I kind of have a question. There's Anita, so nice to have you, and Anthony. And Kevin, nice to have you here, and Michelle. Excellent. And Marlon, Phil, and Eddie. Oh man, Eddie's going to drink some Gaia. Always drink what you can today, because you don't know if you're going to be around tomorrow. And I'm not saying Eddie is in any way sick. He's a man who does a lot of hot yoga. He's going to be just going to that yoga class in Los Angeles every day, and the beautiful, beautiful women you probably see within that class gives you the motivation to stay healthy enough to wake up the next day and go to that class. Although I suspect that you are not doing hot yoga in proximity with any live human beings. Kevin Jones is in the house. Liquid Asset Sellers. We love it. I'm drinking the Axeman, which is one of my favorite beers from Minnesota. They took the Todd off, and now I'm just drinking it. I got probably 9 different beers from Minnesota today, all of which I bought in February. And my buddy Marcus Hansen, thank you, Marcus, sent them out, and I received them today. One of the few things we didn't sequester and quarantine. I put on some gloves, I opened up the box, I put all the beer away, I came in, I washed my damn hands. So let's all wash our damn hands. Yes, and we've got a lovely 2020 Michelob Ultra. Clearly, you have just run a very fun millennial-style race around a town, social distancing, of course, Kevin, because we all know Michelob Ultra is for people that play really interesting, wonderful, millennial-like games with their beer. And after they have worked out, they have one beer to celebrate. Now, I don't know a lot of people like that, but bless them all anyways. Cheers. Guess what time it is, guys? Time that I stopped touching my face with my hands. I just washed my hands, so we're all in very, very good shape. So here we go, launching in. Here we go, day drinking again, guys. I am Wes Hagen, your host. Welcome to Day Drinking for this beautiful April 21st, 2020. I hope you guys are all had a great day yesterday, and you're going to have a great day today. I did notice yesterday, as I mentioned when I first came on the broadcast today, and Kirby, welcome. Good to have you here. The way this works is I'm going to taste normally one wine on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I taste a wine, and then we launch into another subject. Tuesdays and Thursdays are a little more free form. Sometimes the show's a half an hour. Sometimes it's a little bit more. And the idea generally is to show you a wine from the Miller Family Wine Company, because we do actually call this the Miller Family Wine School's Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. Let's not forget, like yesterday, that I'm here to sell wine. Not once yesterday did I remind you that you should buy wine. So I'm going to hit you a little bit harder today. We got to make sure that those sales keep coming in so I can keep doing this. A couple things you guys should know. There's a coupon code that can get you $10 flat rate shipping on all of our wines, mix and match. J.Wilkes, Ballard Lane, Smashberry. For those of you who, there's 9 wines for sale for $7.50 right now at millerfamilywines.com. I'm going to suggest the ones that have been really, really popular with all you folks. I'm going to give you one per brand. I'm going to say the Smashberry Rosé, because I think the Smashberry Rosé is incredibly special. And welcome, Paul. And then I would recommend, let's see, in the Ballard Lane world, let's go Pinot Noir, because that's a 92-point Pinot Noir from the Tasting Panel and Somm Journal, and you're paying $7.50 for it. I really like the Sauvignon Blanc, though, quite a bit in that situation, too. Barrel Burner, let's go the Cabernet. It's got a little bit, 50% of it was for 10 months, or 6 months, was in bourbon barrels, so it actually has a little bit of a bourbon barrel influence. A bourbon barrel Cabernet, Buffalo Trace barrels, incredibly rich, delicious Napa style with a little bourbon influence, $7.50. And then don't forget that DD50, DD50 is your promo code, DD50. And I'll try to put it in, the notes on this side. Promo code. And what does that do? Now, you do not need the promo code, from what I understand, 50% off. I think it's automatically applied. We try to make this as simple as we can. The promo code gets you the $10 shipping. Without a promo code, I believe you'll still get the 50% off all those wines. Definitely check it. If it looks weird in your cart, let me know. I'll make it right. We'll make sure we take good care of you and you get what I promised you. We've been working on this to make sure our messaging and what ends up costing you is exactly the same. So I would go ahead and say the Smashberry Rosé, a little bit of Pinot Noir or the Sauvignon Blanc from Ballard Lane, jump in on the bourbon barrel the Cabernet Sauvignon from Barrel Burner. And then in the J.Wilkes world, man, that 18 Pinot Blanc is pretty darn good. 19 might even be better that we tasted yesterday if you missed it. By the way, if you miss any of these shows, every single show is actually cut and recorded and then also put up on YouTube. So YouTube has a J.Wilkes page, and YouTube also has a Miller Family Wine Company page. So if we're talking, and I think we're posting both on both, so you can get all that information in case. And then I think if you go down my Facebook page, you'll probably, I think so far I've done something like 30 or 40 hours of these shows. So yeah, you could, I feel sorry for anyone who would stream this and sit and just watch them over and over, but I've been told I can be entertaining, and I will do absolutely everything I can to be as entertaining as I possibly can tonight. Okay, so we're going to be tasting, the subject for tonight is wines from regions that are atypical and that normally wouldn't be considered by most American wine lovers to be consistent or what we would normally be ready to consume or expect to consume from these states. So today we are going to be tasting a dry red wine from Minnesota of the Marquette variety. And then we're going to be tasting a wine sent to me by Maryland by my friend Michelle, but is also Phil, who anyone who's been here since the beginning know that Phil and Michelle have been here probably as much as just about anybody. Maybe Eddie Gray's given them a run for their money and a couple other people. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. John, Jason, I did put the Christy's back. Yeah, Christy, if you weren't here for the Barrel Burner stuff, I found out just a couple days ago when I was doing some research on the Barrel Burner Cabernet that when we bought the Buffalo Trace barrels, we bought a lot of them, and we decided only to do a very, very small 8 barrels, 200 cases of the J.Wilkes stuff. But for the Barrel Burner, we went deep, so we had to use a lot of those bourbon barrels. I would say probably the J.Wilkes is definitely richer, deeper, denser, and a little bit more of that sort of caramel toffee barrel kind of character. And I would say that the Barrel Burner Cabernet is sort of at the sort of just the edge of perception. So yeah, absolutely. Well, and Carolyn's in the house. Love that. And Beth is back. Love it too. So let's just jump right in. So look at this. So I want to make sure it's 2017 Marquette. And on the back, it says, our wines are the result of hardworking and passionate. Okay, it's just basically them telling us how hard they work. Marquette is a medium-bodied, barrel-aged Minnesota red with dark fruit, vanilla, and spice notes. Enjoy, share, and create memories. Shall we create some memories? Let's find out. So remember, when we open a screw cap bottle, we don't open it from the top because you can cut yourself. Easy and kind of cool way to do it is to grab the bottom of the collar, just give it a nice pop, and then the top just comes right off. Never cut yourself, and people will look at you like you're cool. Maybe. Day drinking. All right, so I'm going to use this cool little Venturi, flash decant it, and then give it a nice. Now, once you've poured a small amount of wine out of a screw cap bottle, we can do what our friends in Australia sometimes call the Molly Duker shake, which is after you've put a bit of oxygen within this bottle, displacing the wine and absorbing a little bit of the ambient gases in the air. So there's a little bit of oxygen in there, right? Put the cap back on, make sure it's screwed on tight, just like when you're making a health shake. You got to make sure, or you're making yourself something. And then I give it a nice little cocktail shake. And what that'll do is put some oxygen in solution and kind of do a little ghetto filtration or a little ghetto decantation. But I did decant this through this beautiful little Venturi given to me by the Kapalua Wine and Food. Okay, first thing I notice is quite a bit of new French oak, and it's very heavily toasted. It's interesting that it's French oak because one of the places where where you can find white oak is in Minnesota. So they could probably put this in either Minnesota barrels or some wood from Minnesota. But I agree. I like their choice that they used French oak in this. It has a much more broad, toasty, roasty note to it. And to be frank, though, I mean, I get a little bit of slightly sour cherry, some nice, bright, dense raspberry character, some really nice fruit. First of all, it smells good. First of all, this is the first time I've ever stuck my nose in a dry red wine grown and aged and bottled in the beautiful state of Minnesota. So one thing I want to think about is there a place outside regular wine growing regions in the United States that you've had a wine from that you really enjoyed? Have you ever had a wine from Arizona? Have you ever had a wine from Missouri? Have you ever had a wine from Michigan? Have you ever had a wine from New York, Finger Lakes, Long Island? Yeah, all these places. So if you want to think about where's one of the most surprising wines that you've had, or maybe you had a wine that was terrible. I don't really want to necessarily knock down any brands on the show, but if you've had wine from a non-traditional region in the United States, I want to hear about it. Nice. Don. Oh, Loring with Don says he learned, I think what he's saying is he learned the cap. Oh my gosh, I just remembered something really, really important as we talk about this beautiful 2017 Marquette from SRAM. This was actually given to me at a tasting in Minneapolis by a beautiful young winemaker who was just like rapping to me about, grapes. And she knew I was from California and she knew I was a vinifera winemaker. So she was like, Herman, Missouri, Norton Grape. It's a great, Stone Creek, Victor Hugo. There's some really nice wines being grown out there in Missouri. And Rick Pratt's in the house. Good news. So I would say that in general, if you've had wines from outside of California, Oregon, where I'm thinking of some of the places where wine is not getting the respect that it's due. You ready for this? Idaho. Idaho is on the same parallel as Burgundy. It's on the same parallel, really, as a number of different wonderful wine regions. It's almost right there, kind of on the 45th parallel. Oregon loves to talk about the 45th parallel. And to be honest, Oregon is not exactly coastal wine growing anyway. So why not Idaho? If it has a lot of the same geology and it has a lot of the same weather, same heat patterns, not doing quite as much Pinot Noir out there. I think they're doing a little more Rhones and Cabs, but I like to think of Idaho as a little bit less ripe than Washington and maybe a little riper as far as heat summation than Oregon. So it's actually a really cool place to be growing grapes right now and making wine. And it's really starting to kind of hit on some cylinders. So if you haven't tried Idaho wine, that might be one. Another is going to be Virginia. Viognier from Virginia actually is pretty good. I've had some great Merlot from Virginia. And my goodness, if you think about the very, very beginning, the first time that, vinifera vines were brought anywhere outside the old world, which was in the 18th century. And that was Thomas Jefferson, who never signed the Constitution because he was over in Paris eating and drinking and being an ambassador. Interestingly, I didn't know that until but Thomas Jefferson brought grapes to his home in Monticello and tried to start a vineyard and took very good notes and finally gave up when it was destroyed by phylloxera. And there was a time you could probably argue that the most meaningful thing that the East Coast of the United States ever did for wine was phylloxera. I mean, it was horrible. It was terrible, but sort of like if sometimes bad things happen, and that's, absolutely. Iowa, great sparkling wine, Martin. Thank you. And I would also say that one of the greatest domestic sparkling wines I've ever had was from Michigan. Bob Foster, who pokes in from time to time, would know exactly what wine I'm talking about. My wife thinks I remember every wine I've ever tasted, vintage, producer, region. Not really true, especially when I do like 11 or 1,200 wines every year, just a competition. Let's give this one a shot. So in the nose, toasty, roasty French oak, I would guess somewhere between 40 and 50% new French. Really lovely integration. I mean, certainly bright red and a little bit of black fruits. Has a nice bright aroma. It's kind of standard in vinous, which means it has like a grape aroma. It doesn't have a lot of varietal character. Now, Marquette was released from the University of Minnesota between 2005 and 2006. It is a blend of, now you'll know why I'm looking at the notes, MN 1094 and Ravat, R-A-V-A-T 262. Duh. I mean, how many people don't know that, right? I have no idea where these hybrids come from, and it's an interspecies blend. So they take two hybrids from American and French hybrids and put them together. And if I hadn't been looking up these wines right before the show, I probably would have done a little more research and found what vinifera influence they had. If I had to guess, Gamay or Cab Franc would be my guess, because it has this really nice, not like more like Cru Beaujolais Gamay. So it doesn't have like a banana bubblegum sort of Nouveau Beaujolais aroma at all. It has a true Gamay, like aged mallow Gamay nose. It's got bright red fruits, kind of perky. Almost smells like you can almost smell a little bit of acidity. We would assume that Marquette's going to hold on to a lot of acidity in Minnesota. First of all, I have to say the wine is incredibly well made. There's not any specific, if it tastes exactly as you would hope a wine that could be grown in Minnesota would. It's got a little bit of richness in the attack, but it's lean. It is lean and rich. So it has the richness. It's not like, it doesn't hit like a Rosé Plus. It's got body to it. And I think the oak really helps that body. And I think they did a really, really good job but the acidity is certainly there. I love fairly high acid wines. I think this could actually, without the oak, it could make a beautiful macerated sparkler with this level. And obviously they let this hang to get nice and ripe, so they wouldn't have to deacidulate it probably. Finish is very lively, has a lot of cut. I think it would be gorgeous with a roast chicken with maybe some like cranberry nut stuffing. I think cranberries is a little bit of what I'm getting in the red fruits, sort of a cherry, cranberry, slightly unripe blackberry, but really beautiful and fruity. And I'm actually pretty stoked on it. I think I remember the woman telling me it was about a $25, $27 bottle of wine. And this brings up a really, really important point. Two things. What I learned from Virginia and what I know as an American wine patriot. If you only drink wines from California, I think that's problematic. Just like if you only drink wines from France. There's a very, very famous woman who imports wines who has two sons, and those sons like to brag that they never drink anything that's not a Grand Cru or First Growth or a Lala or what have you. And I think that's just a profane statement. To say that I will reject table wine, that I will reject wine under $1,000, you have purposefully made yourself ignorant to the greatest treasures and pleasures on the planet Earth. You are never going to drink a bottle of Gloria Ferrer non-vintage Brut Rosé sparkling wine. What a bummer. It's such a lovely and delicious wine. You're never going to drink Tavel Rosé. You know, you're never going to drink, a Norton from Herman, Missouri. It just seems so wrong. So I'm going to challenge two things. Number one, I want to challenge the idea that we have to drink wines only from certain states. As Americans, we should be so interested in traveling throughout the United States. And to be honest, this sort of sparkling isolation has proven to us that when we can't travel, we have to find ways to leave our minds otherwise, whether that is watching TV, watching movies, trying not to kill your children, training your dogs, working out, whatever. You got to take yourself out of your own head. How do I take myself out of my own head? Well, one thing I do is I have an interesting glass of wine every night from some place way, way, way out there, right? I mean, I've never tasted a wine. I'm actually working with a guy who's actually growing vinifera in greenhouses outside of Anchorage, Alaska. And I love that project. Alaska was the last state. They actually grow Chardonnay in, I think, in Maui. So you can get at very, very high elevation. Remember, you have to get under 45 degrees for 200 hours during your winter, non-sequentially, to reset bud fruitfulness and vitis vinifera. So if you're growing Chardonnay and you've got to grow it in a tropical place, you would definitely have to grow it at high enough elevation that you would get enough chilling requirement that the grapes would reset their fruitfulness. But Hawaii and then Alaska was the last state that did not have a vineyard that was producing wine. And now they do. And he's growing all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's very interesting because we were talking about our summers. And interestingly, Anchorage tends to be, in August, the high temperature in Anchorage, Alaska tends to be hotter than it is down here in Santa Maria, which seems crazy, but it's true. All right. So we went through our Marquette. There's some really, really cool sort of earthy, edge of sour, woody aromas. I mean, some of it's bouquet, but some of it is what the grape is. And damn it, I really now want to know if we've got some Gamay or some Cab Franc, because there's also a little bit a grape that has a little more tannin to it. But I wouldn't consider this wine tannic. Structurally, probably closest to Pinot Noir because of the high acidity, because of the mild richness, and to me, the food friendliness of that wine. I think it would be just beautiful with like a grilled pork loin. Maybe put a little like a mustard garlic glaze on some pork loin, and maybe some dirty quinoa or some forbidden rice. Something that has richness, but that's not over the top. I wouldn't necessarily do it with a steak. I think sort of dense, flavorful white meat. I'm telling you, there's some fish dishes that would rock with that. I think you could do, like, if there's somehow a bridge between the wine and the dish, it would love fried seafood. I'm kind of thinking it would be really pretty with something fried that had a little tomato or mushroom. How about like fried mushrooms with a dipping sauce that had some type of tart red fruit in it? Sounds weird, right? But I'm weird, so I wear it on my sleeve. Fly that freak flag high. Onward. Okay, so I'm going to take a tiny little break in between the first wine and the second wine. I'm going to get a little bit of, try not to spill this water. Get my glass of rinse. Clean my palate with the Axeman. Day drinking, guys. We're all in this together. We're going to do just fine. Looking forward to basically coming together as often as we need to make sure that we're all doing well. We're all taking care of each other. All right, let's do this. Wow, Dominic. Ravat 262 is a direct offspring of Pinot Noir, making Marquette a grandchild of Pinot. I went Gamay, although stylistically I did make a couple comments that in the mouthfeel it had some Pinot. Good, Ruth. I'm glad I made you hungry. Keith Jackson is drinking a 08 Shelton Mongazin from Rancho Cucamonga Old Vines Inn. Oh, man. I think Carol Shelton got those grapes from Don Galliano, the last real man in the United States. Hell of a dude. Carol Shelton's one of my favorite winemakers. I've mentioned her before. I judged wine with her first time 20-some years ago. Her Cabernet ended up winning Chairman's Award at the LA County Fair. I was on the panel that wine forward. Really, really excited. Dominic also adds that Marquette makes one of the best rosé wines I've ever had. It really shines in that style. No way. Zozon from Black Ankle? Oh, this is rad. I love the fact. Really amazing. I would love to know the oak treatment of that wine. My guess was somewhere between about 30 to 45% new French oak. My guess would be either Allier or Bertrange from the forest, and a medium plus toast. The toast I thought was just perfect. Yeah, 18 Smashberry Red in the cans return. It's vanished off the website. I guess we sold out all of our canned Smashberry. Yay us. Yes, we've already canned a new one and we're going to put it up soon. And I will also make sure that canned, I'll talk to our warehouse people and our order desk, and I will put it down in my notes. Order desk, extra genetic information, Carl Sagan. You got to put information outside the human brain so it stays there. Order desk, cans, Smashberry. What? WTF? It's a beautiful thing. Cool. So here we go. Yeah. So we got Black Ankle in the house, and we have one of the folks from Black Ankle has actually joined us. Oh, fried or roasted branzino. Oh man, I miss branzino. That's one thing. It's kind of hard to get, from Instacart, ordering off of Albertson's supermarket. We're not generally going to have that high-end fish. And that's one thing that I'm really worried about is prime beef, the best scallops, best oysters. I mean, where's Highland selling oysters right now? Who's delivering cold, fresh oysters that are less than an hour out of the water? Like I'm used to eating at the Ferry Plaza in San Francisco. If anyone knows where to get like badass, and I would love to support some of the oyster producers, Rappahannock, anything out, Diamond Point, any of those oysters that are out and about on the eastern seaboard. But I also really like oysters basically from Morro Bay, California, all the way up to British Columbia. Some beautiful stuff. John Rodriguez ordered some hogs. Well, if John knows that you can get some Hog Island sweets, I'm in, man, because I can eat like 4 dozen of them and then ask what we're having for dinner. My wife would always ask me, I thought it was dollar oyster night. I'm like, it was. I'm like, well, then how did you and your friends spend $375? Because I ate 4 dozen in my head, and then I had a prime burger covered with foie gras and a half a lobster tail. And I was doing everything I could to give myself gout in one night. It didn't work, but I'm still working on it. That's awesome that I don't mind if they're pricey, as long as they're not more than maybe $3 or $4 each delivered. I'm in. Those are beautiful, beautiful things. Now, I did notice, so this is a Maryland dessert wine. I don't know anything about it, but I do know that I looked up the Black Ankle website, and the story of the name is it's on a very potentially muddy road, and they would imagine that people walking that road would have had black ankles. The other idea is they bought the property and turned it into a vineyard and a winery. They wanted, the owners, they thought in their mind how someone who had been stomping grapes all their life, maybe not washing them between October and September, would also have these black ankles. But it's the traditional name of the road that this vineyard and winery is on in Maryland. I'll also look very carefully, and I also say to Zoe, depending, I've heard it pronounced both ways. If you have any comments on this, I will share it with all the people that are going to watch this, and then it'll also be on YouTube under the J.Wilkes page, as well as the Miller Family Wine Company. We originally wanted to taste the 2016 Pinot Blanc tonight because we were going to launch the sale of some of our library wines. But again, we're prioritizing getting all your orders out so you guys all have wine. And when they have a little time, they're going to put the special together for a mixed case of 2016 J.Wilkes wines, and it will go up. And believe me, on the moment that it does, you will see that we'll go back to tasting the 2016 Pinot Blanc, the 2016 Zinfandel, and maybe even the 2016 Cabernet Sauvignon. All right, so here we go. Clean glass. It's like a beautiful label. In fact, I believe the bottle is actually etched. Yes, it is. Gorgeous, really pretty. Terra Sol, Earth Sun. Now, it definitely has a golden color to it, almost on the edge of skin contact. My guess is during the fermentation and the aging of this wine, it picked up a little oxygen, but also you will get a more golden color as the residual sugar increases in the wine. Normally, if I would see a dessert wine this color, if it was a Sauterne, I would expect this wine to be somewhere in the area between, maybe 9 and 30 years old. Oxidation and purposeful oxidation during the aging of a wine can give a dessert wine a lot more complexity, especially if you expect people to drink it a little bit early. Dessert wines are basically immortal. I'm actually very, very lucky to have tasted an 1886 Chateau d'Yquem. And it was lively 90 seconds after opening, and then it became dirt. At first, it was like apricots and smoke and a level of complexity and nuttiness that was humbling. And I think I might have probably shed a tear when I smelled it and tasted it. The cork was so bad, we ended up having to. The funny question when we open it is, how many advanced sommeliers does it take to open a bottle of 1886 D'Yquem? The answer was 3, and we still broke the bottle. It was a hand-blown bottle. And the label was just, I believe that my stepfather received it from a Middle Eastern gentleman. And we tasted it at our first party for Clopepi when we released our first wine. And the people that stayed to the bitter end, we announced, hey, you 30 people, how would you like to taste an 1886 Chateau d'Yquem? And that being said, classic dessert wine nose, clean, bright, not oxidative at all. I'm not getting nuttiness. I'm not getting sherified character. I'm not getting any of those oxidative aromas. What I'm getting is bright, clean honey, like ultra ripe pear, old sort of almost like a nectarine jam, predominantly honey, flowers, and that beautiful sort of stone fruit, like concentrate. It's like really, really super concentrated from that perspective. You can also smell the sugar. From the nose, my guess is this is going to be somewhere between 12 and 18% residual sugar. So that is, yes, 120 to 200 grams of residual sugar per liter in the wine. So remember, when we talk about percentage of residual sugar, that's how much sugar actually. So what I'm saying is 1/5 of the weight of this glass of wine, minus the glass, is going to be disaccharide sugar. Interesting stuff. I've never found myself having dessert wine with anything before the end of the meal. I've definitely had it with foie gras. I've definitely had it with certain chocolates. I've definitely had it with Stilton cheese. It's good with some rather stinky cheeses too. Unfortunately, my love of dessert wine and my collection of port has generally it's become static. And the nice thing is I'll probably hold a lot of my vintage port until I'm far older than I am now, and I'll look back and say, well, now's the time to take some insulin and do it. Unfortunately, I am a type 1 insulin-dependent diabetic, so I might actually spit this wine, or I might not. It depends on how the spirit moves me. It might be definitely worth insulin with how good this wine smells. First of all, dessert wine, you're basically fermenting syrup, and the difficulty of making a dessert wine and the expense of making a dessert wine makes it basically economically unfeasible for most wineries, just because I made a dessert wine out of Chardonnay at Clopepi, basically a Batra-sized dessert wine. And I'd also be curious, did this freeze? Did it Batra-size? Did you just hang it out? Did it raisin? Was it Passado? Did you put it on racks? I want to know something about this wine. So I'm definitely going to go down and try to find some information that people are sharing with me. Wow. Someone just said they had a Pinot Noir from Southwest Wisconsin. Tommy, you're currently the winner of the most interesting place that you've tasted wine from. And Pinot Noir from Southwest Wisconsin, those Wisconsinites, man, they can drink. Highest per capita drinking in the United States, most bars per capita, highest binge drinking rate. And they drink 50% of the domestically produced brandy in the United States. Those folks like their old fashions. Louise, I hope you are well, Louise. Good time to get out of the restaurant business, or to be out of the restaurant business, I should say. Miss your restaurant though. That was so fun when we did that wine dinner. And Zoe, I'm going to call you Zoe because I don't know if you're a Zoe, and Zoe Struther. Zoe Struther. I saw your picture on the website today. Welcome, Zoe. I hope you are enjoying our time. Thank you. Late harvest Gruner Veltliner. Harvest at the very, very end of fall. I've never had a dessert wine from Gruner Veltliner. It totally makes sense. Gruner, of course, in a dry form is probably the most food-friendly wine for any high amount of chlorophyll. If you're having Brussels sprouts, if you're having asparagus, which begs the question, is this a dessert wine that a vegan could enjoy with a vegan meal? And I don't know what vegans eat for dessert. I'll have to ask my wife. I guess chocolate's vegan. But what would maybe there is something you could do with a little bit of green bitterness that would match beautifully with this Gruner Veltliner. I noticed that you guys have Gruner and Chardonnay out there in Maryland. And this is the Maryland Piedmont, which I didn't know existed, but I learned some cool stuff about all the complex soils they have out there. And so far, I'm very impressed with the nose. All right, let's dig in. So honey, it smells like Vendange Tardive. It smells like late harvest. If I was given this blend blind, and people love to screw with me all the time, hey, qu'est-ce que c'est? What the hell is it? It is definitely, to me, I would say that is a Botrycized dessert wine from an aromatic white wine variety. It's not as sweet as I thought. My guess is 7 to 8% residual. My guess is 75 grams. It actually has beautiful acidity. It is not so sweet to be cloying in the finish. It has a nice long, even a touch of minerality, which I don't know if I've ever tasted in dessert wine. It is actually, I would not consider it to be a classic dessert wine in the sense that it is not a wine I would drink for dessert. And you would have to be very careful matching this with a dish. I always believe that the wine should be sweeter than the dish. That's why I'm thinking this one would be absolutely spectacular with a plain, perfect cheesecake. Cheesecake not being that sweet, the wine being about half as sweet as I imagined. What's really cool is the aromatics then were not necessarily driven by how the sugar and the alcohol were carrying them, but instead, the level of honey on this thing, I have to think there was some botrytis. Botrytis is the noble rot, turns the grapes sort of fuzzy and blue. You got to wear a mask when you're all used to wearing masks. So now when you go out and a winemaker tells you to wear a mask because you're picking Botrycized fruit, you say, oh yeah, I've got a whole closet full of masks. When I did the Botrycized Chardonnay, my wife took a picture as I drove my Dodge pickup truck to the winery because there was literally a blue plume of smoke coming out of the back of my truck as all the botrytis, as I got up to speed on Highway 246, all the botrytis started coming off the grapes and like floating down the highway. Fortunately, there was no one out there. It is a bit of a lung irritant, so you have to be careful not to breathe botrytis. And what botrytis does is it's a noble rot that goes in and affects the grapes late in the season. It can also affect the shoots early in the season, which we call, basically shoot blight. But really what it does is it micro-perforates the skins of the grapes, and without any oxygen getting into the grapes, the botrytis pulls just the water. All it wants is water. So when it opens up the grape skin, it basically puts its spore basically into the grape and absorbs only pure dihydrogen monoxide, otherwise known as H2O, obviously known as water. I just got a little fancy for my own good, but dessert wine makes me happy. So what ends up happening is the botrytis sucks all the water, almost all the water, out of the grape without letting oxygen in. So you have these little, basically sugar bombs. So in a botrytized grape, you can get up to 30 bricks, maybe even more. So I would say this was probably, my guess is this was probably harvested somewhere around 26, 27. I can reverse engineer the alcohol. Check this out. 370. 13.4 alcohol. Okay, so this is how a winemaker's brain works. We got 13.4. I don't have a calculator. So 13.4, if it was a dry wine, that means it would have been harvested at about 23 bricks. So we've got 7%. Ooh, wow, that means it was harvested at 30 bricks? 27 at least. So I'm thinking that this was actually got really, really nice and ripe. And to get that type of ripeness in Maryland, I have to think you actually were playing the botrytis game. Clearly, I don't know a lot about how botrytis affects vineyards in the East Coast. I know that you guys have to deal with like Japanese beetle and basically stuff that would drive West Coast winemakers absolutely insane. This is really pretty. Congratulations, though. I think you did really, really good. One thing about the Gruner, it does have a little bit of skin grip to it. And I do think a few more percent residual sugar would probably make the wine a little more, the sweetness of the mouth would match the sweetness of the nose. I would have gone a little less alcohol, a little less fermentation, and arrested fermentation. And this is, of course, this is basically, Monday morning quarterback. But I think a couple extra percent residual would really do this wine some good. I think, first of all, the level of sweetness in it is really going to appeal to people. I think the wine is incredibly well made. I'm very surprised by the color, that there is no oxidative character to this wine at all. It's honeyed. It's beautiful. It's got all sorts of, and by far, the best Maryland wine I've ever had. And I know that, we all want to try wines from all over the country. And as a result, I am so excited. And thank you so much, Michelle Shin and Phil, pardon me. The fact that you sent me this wine and I got to taste it online is super exciting. Plus, my wife has a huge sweet tooth. If I had a sweet tooth, I'd be dead. But still, so surprised it's 100% Gruner. I probably would not have hit that 100% Gruner. Their notes say apricot, lychee, apple, orange, creamsicle, all interwoven with some acidity, minerality, pepper spice, and didn't get the pepper, but everything else was 9% residual. 8.9. What did I say? 7 to 10, 7, 8. Yeah, I wasn't that far off. I think I said 75 grams and it's 89 grams. So I was close. 200 cases produced. Honey, very ripe peach, apricot, citrus, blossom, lychee. No freezing. Yes, botrytis. Yeah, the honey is a giveaway. In general, you don't get that same kind of honeyed character out of a ice wine or a freezer wine. So you can either, absolutely. Oh, the Terrasol. Gosh, a lot of, Rebecca, your middle name or your, was so appropriate yesterday. Rebecca Kidwell, you have to check out her gorgeous sort of Grateful Dead meets middle, either maiden name or middle name. I love it. Ginger shortbread cookies or ginger snaps. Oh, that sounds amazing. That's it, right? Because you get the spiciness, you get the light amount of sugar. Ginger snaps aren't overly sweet. I still think though, that with a perfect, slightly dry cheesecake Would be absolutely amazing. So did we find out if this wine spent time in barrel or was it aged a little bit? I would guess it was in stainless steel for a couple of months while they got this wine going, and probably it fermented a little bit longer than they anticipated, but that me picking nits because I think this wine is really, really beautiful. We got Don Chambers chiming in. He had a Cabernet Sauvignon. You got to let me know if you thought it was good, Don. Love that stuff. Logged in, Ballard Lane, Sauvignon Blanc. I hope that wine is treating you well, Ari. So Ari, of course, is the wife of my good friend Josh, and I'd like to consider Ari my friend too. We're encouraging them the moment we can get together to come on up and spend some time with us out in the vineyard. Now, I did a ginger snap. Oh yeah, Christy. Oh, there's no wonder you have such good taste. Ginger snap crusted cheesecake. Yes. I always use those last words from James Joyce's Ulysses. I will ask the folks that are watching this on the J.Wilkes Wine Santa Barbara page. I did lose my video. I just want to make sure that you guys can still see me. BAV. When I come east. Talk to me about BAV. I don't know what BAV is. And Christopher Holt's in the house. And let me see who showed up on my page while we were looking. Christine Major. Christine, how are you? I hope you are well. Please tell your sister I think of her once in a while, and hopefully she is well as well. Would love that. Zach is on, and John Rodriguez looking up the black ankle. Very nice. Ikem is my kryptonite. Imagine Indian food. Nita's talking. She's the one who gave me that wonderful cookbook that I showed you a few times. Also, the best Indian food probably between Santa Barbara and Paso Robles is at her house. Biryani chicken or chicken tikka or butter chicken with a little sauterne. Yeah, so I guess Nita is saying that Ikem is her kryptonite. So it's time to try Sudarat and see maybe if that is will help you as well. Yes, I'm looking forward to changing that too. Chenin Blanc from India? No way. I love Chenin. So I was going to mention, okay, thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. Black Ankle Vineyards, BAV. I was thinking ABV, alcohol by volume, that I was thinking something, or, the Piedmont, all that good stuff. Yeah, Melissa Schulte, she knows, she certainly knows Black Ankle. A lot of love coming out for Black Ankle tonight. Go Maryland, go Crab State. I love the fact that I believe, are crabs on their state crest. That's awesome. Chenin Blanc from India. Wow, I don't even know what part of India would be between the 30th and 50th parallels of latitude, and what parts of India would be between 10 and 20 degrees average temperature in Celsius. It must be a pretty small, highly elevated area where they're growing it. And Chenin, I love me some Chenin. In fact, I just found out that one of the previous winemakers from Center of Effort up in Edna Valley, Roxy Ward, is now come on board at the Miller Family Wine Company, is going to be taking over Ballard Lane, which is great news for all of you because she trained under Ken Brown at Ken Brown Wines, who also owned Byron. And here's the big news. And this has not been announced anywhere else in the world. This is the first public announcement we've ever made. We just hired a brand new director of winemaking for the Miller Family Wine School. And I could not be more excited that we chose a local guy that has more experience and also has that Ken Brown connection. Ken Brown connection, also the director of winemaking for Byron under the Jackson Family Wines. Kendall Jackson made all the wines at Byron for, maybe 15 years. Jonathan Nagy is now our director of winemaking at Miller Family Wine And even though he's younger than me, I am so happy to take direction. And the idea that he can take a little bit of hold of the stylistic direction that we're going after we meet and talk about it, super, super excited about that. Tank fermented. Thank you, Melissa. That would have been my guess. I didn't get any wood in it at all. And I don't think dessert wine needs the affection of wood. I don't think it needs any of that. Really beautiful. Jennifer Mackey asks, how is India allowed to make wine? Is that a I think that culturally that's a little, oh, thank you, Michelle. It was delicious. Yeah. Indian Chenin. Anything you want to share about that wine, Nita? You got a lot of people over here that are a little wondering. Now, Chenin can handle a little heat. It grows incredibly well in areas like Clarksburg, California. One of my favorite Chenins traditionally is going to be Chapelet up in Napa. Any Napa producer that is still growing Chenin Blanc in Napa Valley, and maybe the fruits from Clarksburg, I have no idea, but it really, really gets me excited that people still believe in Chenin. Do not be surprised if and when you see a J.Wilkes Clarksburg Chenin Blanc. I really want to make Chenin Blanc because I've never made it, and it sounds like really, really fun. And we have someone applying to the wine school. Josh, you are in as a adjunct professor. So, sir, you are, as far as I'm concerned, you are in the Miller Family Wine School. You are the man because before this whole social distancing and sparkling isolation, I call it sparkling isolation because it has to be in Courant, France to be a true quarantine, that you, sir, basically covered me to handle a J.Wilkes tasting in San Diego. If I can't get down to San Diego, I've got something going on that is taking me away from a place that I really, really want to be. So thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. And Jennifer Mackey is in on the Chenin Blanc. We love that. When was it was picked? November, maybe? And Melissa is thinking about botrytis. I'm going to say there had to be some botrytis. Great. To get 89 grams of residual sugar at 13.4, you're tempting me to get my calculator out. But my guess is that has to be 30 bricks. And to get 30 bricks in Maryland, before the weather comes in, I just got to think it's got to be botrytized. But Nita, if you have any comments about that Indian Chenin Blanc, if it wasn't great, I want to know. But if they are growing, my question is, who's making wine in India and what kind of expertise do they have? And where it was grown, I'm assuming it was probably grown in the north. It was probably grown at elevation. It was probably grown, I'm guessing, at elevation between the 30th and 50th parallels. Cool stuff. Love it. Awesome, guys. Well, I had a really, really fun time tasting a couple wines with you. We talked a little bit about regions. I did promise you that I would share something as far as sort of what I thought was one of the most interesting places to grow wine in the United States. First of all, my buddy John really opened up Arizona. He learned how to grow in Arizona under a shade canopy. So they actually put maybe a 10 or 20% shade canopy over the vineyard rows. So it has the capacity to really have a little bit of a shading influence on the fruit so it doesn't burn. The Chardonnay coming out of Arizona, the Arizona Republic, I think it's Arizona Republic brand. I'll have to look it up. But his wines that were coming out of Arizona, as I tasted them at Winemaker Magazine Conference, were absolutely spectacular. I'm going to also talk just a second about Virginia. Then I'll give you guys a little bit of a sales plug, and then I will be done. Virginia. So I first went to Virginia maybe 12 years ago to taste some wine and to hang out and do some stuff in DC, to sell some wine in DC. I think I was there maybe for a conference. And as I went through all the Virginia wines, what I found is that the wines were quite good, that the wines showed really, really good craftsmanship, decent viticulture, if not improving viticulture, that the wines were definitely worth drinking. And back then, almost all the wines were being consumed in DC and the Beltway by politicians that wanted to show that they were drinking local wines and supporting the local economy, which I thought was brilliant. Unfortunately, the only people that could afford these wines that probably would have been $15 to $20 wines in California for the same quality, we're looking at $40 to $50. So the question is, who wants to pay $40 for a bottle of Virginia wine that is substandard to the price point? Next time I come out to Virginia is 2015, 2016 for the Winemaker Magazine National Conference. And they invited, thank goodness, 25 different producers from all over Virginia. And they brought all their wines in. And as I was tasting them, of course, I'm going to ask the question, how much does this wine cost? And what I got was 18 to 25. And I said, something that I'll never forget, I'll say, I am so impressed that you have invested in value. To get people to drink those wines, to pull the trigger over $25, you got to have more money than sense. To pull the trigger on those wines for 15 to $25 instead of 50 or $70 for the best wines in Virginia, those wines are worth it. So maybe they're taking a little hit in the pocketbook. I think we're all probably taking a little hit in the pocketbook, but it was certainly worth it because the Viogniers, the Norton, the Cab Franc, I thought were very, very good. And if you haven't tasted one from the Finger Lakes, I think Finger Lakes of New York, anywhere from Ithaca all the way through Sheldrake Point, all the way up to the experimental station. Where is it? At the very top of the Finger Lakes, Geneva, Lake Geneva. Beautiful, beautiful. Real Geneva, New York. Beautiful wines. And then I know that a lot of you also put your favorite sort of atypical areas in the United States for growing wine. 50 states, baby, 50 states. I mean, how about Hill Country in Texas, making some really good white wine? And maybe they'll figure out which red varieties don't express that weird grandma's perfume thing. Looking forward to tasting some Fredericksburg, Texas red wines that appeal to me, but the whites I think are quite good out there. Let's see where else, I would not mule farm Pinot Noir in Kentucky. I had someone who I was talking with for a while and helped with a couple of things, and he ended up giving up on Pinot Noir in Kentucky for obvious reasons. Take a drink. Day drinking. My beer fridge is restocked. Thank you, Marcus Hansen. Thank you, Small Lots, Minnesota. And thank you for the wine room in Excelsior, Minnesota. Obviously, where one of the great hospitals in the world lives out there, the Mayo Clinic. So I just want to thank all of you guys for coming out, hanging out, watching this, whether this is live, whether it's afterwards, whether it's YouTube. Really appreciate you guys giving us the support. I always say 90% of this program is unsponsored content and 10% at the beginning, at the end, is encouraging you guys to support the Miller Family Wine Company. So how can you guys support the Miller Family Wine Company? You can use the promo code DD50, DD50, Day Drinking 50, to get $10 basically across the board shipping per case. So if it's 13 bottles, it goes up to 20. So you definitely want to go buy the case. Get together with a couple neighbors, buy a couple cases. You're going to get an incredibly good deal. Check out the Ballard Lane, Smashberry, Barrel Burner wines, all $7.50 a bottle for 90, 92 point scoring wines, gold medals, all kinds of accolades. Check out the MillerFamilyWines.com. The DD50 gets you the shipping, but I believe that all the other pricing is automatic. J.Wilkes wines are now 20% off, 6 bottles or more, automatic. A case, you get 25%. And if you just go ahead and click join the wine club, not only will you get a private invitation to come on Friday, I will not be here on Friday. I'm doing a private tasting for the wine club in the same time zone. I know that a lot of people watching are in the wine club already, and I encourage all of you to jump in. Let's get some wine club conversions out of you guys. It's basically, we just sent out a shipment. So all you got to do is just click it, and you won't even see any wine until June, and you'll get all of the cool discounts as a wine club member. Thursday will be the last public tasting on Facebook. Friday, we're doing the wine club meetup on Zoom. Once you're in the wine club, you'll get an email, how to register, and the password. You can share that password with your friends so we can get lots of people here. please jump in, join the J.Wilkes Wine Club. It's just like 3 bottles a couple times a year. So it's not a big financial burden. And the wines are delicious, and you get crazy discounts. And you're going to get a discount on that beautiful case of 16 library wines. And I think you guys will all recognize that the wines are well worth the money. Awesome. Wow. I just got offered some more of these beautiful Black Ankle wines. I promise, one thing I always promise at the beginning of the show, if anyone wants to send me booze, you're more than welcome. My address here is Wes Hagen, 3850 Miraloma Drive, Santa Maria, California, 93455. Send the booze. I'll taste it online. I am a shill for booze. It's obviously something I love and looking forward. And then I just posted the next 3 weeks of subject matter. Of course, every day this week so far, I've shifted what we're actually talking about, but you can get a good idea of what I'm thinking about as far as the subject matter and the wines I'm going to be tasting for the next 3 weeks. So you guys can jump in and do that too. Yes. And Ari, I will try to remember to talk Chenin Blanc. I bet there's some damn good Chenin Blanc being grown down in the Valley de Guadalupe. Seems to me that Baja would be perfect area for growing Chenin. Also Temecula, as well as Ramona, AVA. I think Chenin should be a bigger part of those South Coast places too. Wonderful. Well, again, I hope you guys all had fun. It's basically the first time we've actually spent an entire night tasting wine that we haven't talked about, the Miller family wines. So I want to make sure that we don't miss out. And I hope that you guys will jump in, think about Wine Club, think about buying some more wine, and getting some for your neighbors. As we always close, I appreciate all of you being here from Minnesota. Go Todd the Axeman and its new package. Todd is no longer with Surly, so it's now the Axeman. Thank you so much. And I will reach out and let Shram Vineyards know what a beautiful Marquette that they produced and that they shared us. And thank you to Black Ankle for jumping in and having fun, making this delicious dessert Gruner. When a type 1 diabetic is starting to swallow dessert wine, it's good. Congratulations. It's quite lovely. And let's see. Vincola, I would assume, is a producer down in the Valley de Guadalupe in Mexico that makes a good Chenin Blanc. You're welcome, Rachel. So glad that you're here. As we always say, remember to think of someone in your family, someone in your neighborhood, and one of your friends that may not have anyone right now in their isolation, and make sure they don't feel isolated tonight. Give them a text, ask them to FaceTime, do everything you can to make them feel connected and to get them out of their own head. So we all realize that this is so important for us to establish distance, herd immunity, that science works. And whatever we do, we want to minimize the chance that we can get doctors, PAs, nurses, first responders sick. So it may sound like a good idea. Oh, it's time to go outside. Let's get a little spring in. Well, that's all well and good for you, but think about what risk you're putting medical and first responder personnel, the difficulty that you're putting them in. So hunker down, take your time, understand that we're all in this together. And if you don't feel like we're in this together, come back to day drinking and I'll make sure you feel it. So again, if you can't be with the wine you love the wine you're with. And if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with, even if that's yourself. I think I'm going to add that. I just made that up, but I think I'm going to add that to the ending each time. It always gets a little bit longer. Have a fantastic evening. Love each other. Eat delicious things. Drink wonderful things. And let me know what you're drinking, eating, and where you are every time you come in to Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. Have an awesome evening. And remember, all of these shows are available over at YouTube, either for the J.Wilkes Wines YouTube channel or the Miller Family Wine Company. And you can also just go down on the Facebook and find it too. Have a wonderful evening, and maybe we'll talk about Indian Chenin Blanc in the future. Good night, everybody. Have a great night, and thanks for day drinking with me. Otherwise, I would be tragically sober.